Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Paige, here once again. Well, actually, not once again. This is just welcome to a video on Season 8, because this is my first video on Arrow Season 8. So yeah, Arrow is now over for another season. We're 7 seasons down and down to 1 season left, with that season, Season 8, only being a 10-episode season. So we are now officially in the endgame for not just Arrow as a show, but Oliver Queen as a character. And this was all built up in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so of the finale for Arrow Season 7, when we got to see the show write out Felicity from the show in not only the present day, but also in the flash forwards that we have been, going back and forth to throughout the season. And those will continue in Season 8, even though I think they might struggle to stay relevant and keep people's interest, especially when you take in how this season ended and what it set up. But of course, in this video, we're going to be going, over everything from the Season 7 finale, what it all meant, and what it means heading specifically into the final season of Arrow, those final 10 episodes. But of course, throughout this video, let me know all of your opinions in the comment section down below. I'm sure there's going to be some strong opinions about certain parts and just varied opinions and stuff like that. So let me know all of them in the comments. And also just welcome to the Season 8 videos. It's going to be a bit bittersweet, exciting, but also a bit sad because it's coming to an end, Arrow. But all the stuff we're going to be talking about is pretty exciting for what's to come. And yeah, so if you're looking forward to all that stuff and just what's coming in Arrow Season 8, be sure to show your support by dropping a like and just let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, let's just jump into it all. So just to make it clear to those that really liked the finale and weren't sure what people were, unhappy about with the finale, Arrow was essentially forced to do a rewrite of the finale, for the most part. It stood out like a sore thumb, you could easily tell just from watching it. Emily Bett-Rickards, who played Felicity, announced fairly late that she would be leaving the show, which didn't give the, the people behind the scenes, mainly the writers, time to insert a proper departure storyline for her. It did seem in episode 21 when Alina mentioned getting out of the city that was a part of it or the start of it. But come the finale, that line from her had nothing to do with why they left, Star City. What we saw at the end with Felicity and Oliver was obviously meant to be at some point in Season 8, either the episode before Crisis or in the first episode of the actual Crisis crossover. But, due to Emily leaving, they had to shoehorn it into this season's finale, as well as what happened in the flash forwards, which took away from the stuff that happened in the first half of the episode, which probably would have been most of the episode, not just the first half like we saw in the actual episode. Was the finale terrible like some are saying? No. Was it amazing like others are saying? Also no. It's just an unfortunate circumstance where the writers and showrunner had to deal with what they had and just make something out of it. But in regards to the ending, as Emiko does die in Oliver's arms after being stabbed by the ever-elusive Beatrice, who we have never met before, anyway, she does mention to Oliver that his family isn't safe. The Ninth Circle will get them, that there was a contract out for their lives. So yeah, it's best to not, just stay in Star City and just ask to be killed. Which ends up with the bunker closing down for the most part, even though Diggle says later that he would be still using it or something like that to Felicity. Anyway. So we leave Diggle, both of the Canaries, Dinah and Laurel, and Wild Dog in Star City, with Oliver and Felicity leaving to go to that house in the country, which we saw back in episode 16, I think it was, which was the Star City 2040 episode. This is where they could, just live off the grid and just be safe. Now, as we see Oliver and Felicity get accustomed to all of this, the episode actually skips ahead about a period, I would say, of 9 months or so, as Felicity was still at least around 6 months away from giving birth, and then we also saw the first few months of their baby Mia's life, as by the time a certain somebody rolls around. The baby isn't necessarily a newborn at that stage. Obviously, this was a nice moment to watch just to see both of them, but mainly Oliver, enjoy a quiet, normal life like this. But unfortunately for our good old friend Oliver, as we've seen throughout the entire series, his life is never normal for too long, with the monitor just showing up inside the house, which was a bit rude. I mean, dude, ever heard of a doorbell or at least, knocking on the door? Anyway. And the monitor is just straight up with Oliver, telling him that it was time, and no, it wasn't time to duel, it was time to deliver and pay up to their agreement from earlier on. Which is when we see Oliver break the news to Felicity that he had actually made a deal with the Monitor to save the multiverse. And it was time for us, the audience, to find out exactly what was said back in the Elseworlds crossover between these two characters towards the end and what it was that Oliver had agreed to. So we see some of Oliver Queen's plead with, or I guess to, the Monitor to save the lives of both Barry and Kara, or, the Flash and Supergirl, whose destinies and futures didn't look so bright based on something that Superman read in the Book of Destiny. We learned tonight that his original deal was to do whatever the multiverse required to survive the crisis that is looming, which we all know what that is in reference to. But that was made much more specific during tonight's meeting with the Monitor, with him telling Felicity that he had seen the future and Oliver will die. That was his destiny. Not one that was always lined up in the stars for him, but one that was formed by Oliver due to his heart. Now, after all this stuff in the present day, or roughly the present day, went down, we did move to the flash forwards where we see Felicity at the grave of Oliver, and next to him are actually his father's grave, as you would expect, as well as the grave of Emiko, which I actually thought was a really nice touch. I think most people assumed it was his parents, but Moira's grave is actually in a proper cemetery, while Robert, Emiko, and Oliver's grave is actually on the Queen's mansion's grounds. But Felicity is there with Oliver's two children, Maya and William, with it being sure to highlight that Oliver does die in 2019. But as we see Felicity walking away from the grave and down a random road, she tells someone off screen, "I'm ready," with a monitor then appearing, telling her that, "Where I'm taking you, there is no return," with Felicity replying that, "I have been waiting a very long time to see him, I'm ready," with the monitor then opening one of his breaches or portals like we saw in Elseworlds, and the two of them walking through, Felicity at least, to never return back to Earth. But yeah, now let's go over some of the big questions left from the ending of Season 7. These aren't all of them. If you have any more, let me know in the comments section down below, but these are just a couple that, were pretty hot, if you want to. That's actually, I hate using that term. People were talking about these questions. So firstly, where did Felicity go? So as we were saying, the monitor tells Felicity right at the end of the episode, "Where I'm taking you, there is no return," with Felicity saying that she has been waiting to see him for a long time and that she is ready. So she is obviously about to see Oliver, but how is this possible? Is the monitor just going to strangle her or throw her off the cliff in Vormir and hope Felicity reunites with Oliver in the afterlife? Well, of course not. What is most likely happening here is that the monitor is taking Felicity to either a parallel dimension of some sorts, which could be the Paradise Dimension, which is a thing from the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline in the comics, which is sort of like a safe haven for certain heroes, including a version of Superman. It wouldn't be surprising in the slightest if this is used in the TV version of the story as well, for not just Oliver to go to after his sacrifice or whatever he dies from, but also some other heroes that may pay the ultimate sacrifice in their attempts to save not only their homes, but the entire multiverse. There are some other safe haven type places from the comics they could use if they wanted to, as to where Felicity is specifically going, where Oliver would be, but the Paradise Dimension does seem to be the most likely option that they're going to use. So next up, in Season 7 we had the monitor visit Oliver at the end and let him know that now was the time. So what will Oliver be doing when we pick up in Season 8? Well, the first thing to bring up and just point out there is that we don't know necessarily how the other shows are going to wrap up. Will the others have time jumps, or will they end where they are and then have a gap in between seasons and pick up 9 months or so later? Who knows? We won't know exactly until next week when Supergirl and I guess also Legends of Tomorrow wrap up. Supergirl will have a very big Crisis teaser at the end of their episode as well, so keep your eyes out for that one. But I think that will be in their present day, no real time jump like we had in Arrow. But anyway, in Season 8, what I think would be really cool is if they do something completely different with Oliver's character. He is basically working for the monitor at this stage, really, so wouldn't it be cool if he did a job worthy of being associated with the monitor? And I think a cool thing to see Oliver do is basically be a scout or a recruiter of heroes throughout the multiverse for this Crisis event. So there is a character in the Crisis story in the comics called Harbinger, who is basically, or Harbinger, we'll call it Harbinger, who is actually Lila Michaels, who you would know as Diggle's wife on the show. But I would be surprised if they did anything with her in the TV story. But in the comics, she recruits not just heroes, but also villains for the battle against Anti-Monitor and his forces. She's also captured and used by Anti-Monitor, but I don't think they would do that with Oliver, mainly because I don't really care to see it, and also I'd rather them not waste time on it when we know he'll break out of it. Anyway. But I just really think that would be awesome. Imagine Oliver traveling from Earth to Earth over those opening episodes, meeting different versions of past or current characters across the multiverse and recruiting them for the crossover. There is nothing they could really do in Arrow Season 8 in Star City. I feel this scene here with the bunker shutting down, you can see on screen right now, and Oliver sort of tearing up was the goodbye to that part of Arrow. I think following Oliver doing that job for the monitor in Season 8 would be the best and most entertaining option. And if that isn't what you are planning, Arrow writers and producers, throw away whatever you had planned, because Oliver should be multiverse scouting next season. It's something so different from Arrow, and who thought watching Season 1 of Arrow you'd get to that in the last season? But I think that's a really cool option. And I just don't know what they could do vigilante-wise in Season 8. I think they'd sort of done with that. So I think that's the coolest way to go. As I said, this sort of does rely, or not rely, but it is, I guess, it could be influenced by stuff that happens at the end of not only Flash, but also Supergirl and maybe even Legends. They did confirm there's Crisis stuff at the end of the Flash finale later on today, and next week we know there's some Supergirl stuff. Who knows, Legends might randomly have one as well. But keep your eyes out for those shows and their endings as well, because they could have even bigger teasers or just teasers that tie into what happened in the Arrow one as well. So just keep your eyes out for that. And I guess we'll have a bigger discussion when all of those air, and we can just piece them all together and all of that later on. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and it shows support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this video. What do you think is going to happen in Crisis? Would you like to see Oliver do the multiverse like hero recruitment? I think that's a cool thing. Super different, but leave your opinions. If you hate it, let me know. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.